Hi, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
What's your name?
My name is Johnny Fanning.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you, how do you feel about DNA testing? Do you feel it should be mandatory at birth or not?
I think DNA testing should be mandatory uh, at birth, but due to the American way, we have to keep it optional.
You think so? I was thinking that all the tests that they run on children, one more test won't hurt. You don't think so?
Well, I'm pretty sure um, from the time of conception when women start going to the doctor, they can actually tell if that's the parent or not based on uh, hospital records.
Hmm.
You have to look at it like more than likely if the name of the father is already given, more than likely his medical records are already there. It's just a fact of it being established legally.
Right, but how many men or how many stories have you heard of where men has been taking care of children that does not belong to them and they find out after the fact? Do you hear that a lot in your peers, within your peers, or no?
I actually had a case last month like that. A client that we actually went to go do food for.
Mm-hmm.
He had one of his coworkers that was pregnant, and they had a big baby shower which we catered, and then come to find out the baby wasn't his.
How did he find out?
Um, through DNA testing. It
Oh.
was his first one, and he wanted to make sure it was his child.
How did he take the news? How did he feel about that?
I actually think he was kind of depressed for like the first 2 months after he found out, and then it was back to usual. But I don't know what'll be the long term effect on him about that, because that's pretty heartbreaking.
Mhm. Does he still is he still in the child's life?
Nah, the baby hadn't been born yet,
Oh,
so he didn't find out till the baby was actually born.
right. So now after the child has been born,
Nah,
what did he decide?
nah,
He's not with the mom anymore.
nah. I think it was more of a situational thing than actual.
Okay. How do you feel about child support? Do you think it's just there to tear families apart, or do you think it's really in place for what it should be for, which is taking care of the children?
Um, Child support. It's a 50-50. I think if it's an absent father, then child support should be involved. But I think if it's a situation where it's split custody or anything like that, then child support should be like maybe at a minimum. I'm speaking from experience.
Okay. Is there something you would like to share? Let me say this. The purpose of this interview is because I want to spread awareness and I want to encourage young men to, or old men period, to fight for their children. Long gone are the days of men saying, "Oh, she won't let me see my kids." Like you can go to court and things like that. So that's what I mean when I say, do you want to share something? You don't have to get too personal, but what would you say to men who you are trying to encourage to go ahead and fight for their kids?
Well, I believe it's important that fathers are in their kids' life anyway, especially young men. Um, Go to family court. Child support is just pretty much comes into play of person getting assistance most of the time because it's mandatory that if a female get assistance and your name is on the birth certificate, you automatically go to child support. But the easiest way to fight that is go through family court, and it's well worth it. The law states that it's a 50-50 split between the parents. So you have rights, but you won't get that in child support court. You have to go to family court where you'll be able to go through mediation and come up with your own solutions. You know, whether it be 70-30, 60-40, 50-50, whatever. go to family court. That's the easiest way for it to be overseen through child support. Um, if you put the kids on your health insurance, if you get them a certain amount of days throughout the year, the week, however you work it out, it's an easier way to work it out than going through the actual child support courts.
So, do you think it's easier to work something out with the child's mother prior to going to family court, or you would say to just go to family court and let the judge sort it out?
Just go to family court and get it legally documented, because you could have an agreement, and then if it's not legally documented, it come back and haunt you years later. A lot of times men say, I'm not worried about that, but then 8 years down the line, 9 years down the line, it bites you in the butt, because now everything that you've been did doesn't get accounted for. Well, only get accounted for the last 2 years.
Okay, let me go back to the child support versus family court really quick, because a lot of men probably don't even know the difference. So, child support would be what versus family court?
So child support is pretty much the state saying, hey, it's our kid, we need you to pay such and such dollars, pretty much based on uh, your last paycheck stubs. You know what I mean? Speaking from experience, I had a job. I worked, at the time I first got on child support, I was working construction. And that particular week, when they called to see how much I made, we was actually working on the federal site. So even though that wasn't my paycheck for that week, that month that we actually worked on the site, I got charged for what I was making on the site as opposed to what I normally make. So, you know, um, family court is more structured. It works more in our favor because you actually have a voice. You can go in and say, hey, and they work with you. It's not, hey, you have to pay this based on what you make, such and such. Like I said, it goes through time sharing and whatever else you can bring to the table. Insurance, extracurricular activities, all that type of stuff. So I would recommend that anybody that's on child support go to family court.
Why do you think men opt out of going to family court? Do you think they just don't know, or they're scared, or what do you think it is why men won't just go to family court?
Well, with family court, I think a lot of men just don't know about it because it's been implemented in our heads that child support is child support. You have to actually fight it through child support, which you don't. You can actually go through family court, and it's a whole lot easier than trying to go in and fight through child support. Child support, you have to look at it. It was implemented over 40 years ago? 40, almost 50 years ago, to the point where, like, really, Janorino came and enforced it. So it got to the point where the laws hasn't changed. It's the same law, but times have changed. So, they had a big thing with Puff Daddy and a lot of stars, because a lot of these women come to Florida and get residency and file for child support in Miami, in Florida, because we have some of the toughest laws when it comes to that. So that's why you see a lot of these women, when they get ready to file for divorce or they have kids from stars, they come to Miami rather than where they actually live at, because we have tougher penalties, tougher enforcement. A lot of states, if you don't have a job, you just gonna pay. They won't lock you up or hold you up, and none of that stuff like that. So.
Is there anything that you want to share that I did not ask you regarding child support? Or, you know what, I did want to ask you, how do you feel that it affects the children when the father's not in their life?
Definitely affects the kids a lot. A lot of times kids grow up hating their fathers just from being absent, or the misinformation of, the father left and such and such. You know, and it's not until the kids get older that they actually realize what the situation was or why. Like for me, particular, you know, my father paid child support when we were small, and we never knew we got child support. You know, it was just like, hey, he gone,
Wow.
and you know, it was decent money back then. So,
I have one more question, and this is probably going to be a little bit controversial because I do feel strongly about this. But do you feel like paternity fraud should be a crime punishable by the law?
um, no,
Hmm. Why not?
because that's like a two-part question. Well, two-part question to answer. So, at the time, when you say paternity fraud, meaning that somebody knows that the baby wasn't theirs, or are we just saying like, hey, she was sleeping with two guys at one time, and it could have been like a choice of either?
Well,
So when you say paternity fraud, it has to be that you know for 100% fact that this this kid didn't belong to this guy.
I disagree. If you know you slept with multiple people, you know there's a possibility. So therefore, it's your responsibility
But it's
to find out.
but when you say fraud, you have to be uh, committed of an actual crime. So when you say possibility, it's a possibility that somebody robbed the bank. But if you're not 100% sure that that person is the person that robbed the bank, you can't convict them for fraud.
Interesting.
So you have to be 100. It has to be knowingly with intent that she deceived this person. But if it's a
So
possibility
basically, you're saying if it's able to be proven that she knew,
that she knew,
then
then
do you think that should be punishable?
yeah, but you really can't punish an individual knowing it. The only reason I say that because I look at it from the point of it's also the responsibility of the man to know that that's your child.
But how can a man know that he even has a child if the woman gets pregnant and moves away, or maybe she was from out of town, or anything could happen?
So DNA testing. So going back to child support, when you appear for child support, they ask you, do you want DNA testing? Well, you don't have to pay for it right then. You can actually put it onto your child support, and they work it out within the numbers or whatever they do.
Is there anything that you would like to share that I did not ask you?
Yes. Man, make sure you wear a condom till you feel like she's the right one. Um, Protect yourself, protect your energy. Times have really changed. Just be smart about the situation.
Thank you.